Hello and welcome back to my channel. Bonsoir et re-bienvenue sur ma chaîne. My name is Miru and in this video I will be giving my first impressions for the first 2 episodes of Amazon Prime's Wheel of Time TV adaptation. Again, a friendly reminder that I have not read the Wheel of Time series written by Robert Jordan and finished by Brandon Sanderson. However, I have read about it a bit, so I'm not completely clueless as to some aspects of the world building or even some aspects of the overall story resolution, because I didn't really care about spoiling myself for some things since I had firmly decided not to read the series, and I will not be reading the series, just to be clear. So I watched episode 1 last night, watched episode 2 today. I know there's a 3rd episode already released, but I have enough things to say based on those first 2 episodes. That first episode, was not that good. I was quite shocked by how not that good it was. I'm going to start with the visuals. Some aspects of the visuals were fine to good. I think the costume was good. I think the set design was good. There were some beautiful panoramic shots. I will say this. I really liked seeing those old, decrepit husks of skyscrapers in one of that very first opening shots, because I know for a fact that the Wheel of Time is supposed to take place very far into the future of our Earth. However, talking about that cold open, you enter into that episode, and it was just so jarring. I was like, what is happening? Okay, we're just rolling with it, okay? It didn't feel smooth at all. I don't know what they were thinking of there, but I thought that opening was just not good. I personally think those Trollocs, the monsters, Robert Jordan's version of orcs, basically, looked a bit goofy to me. I'm not gonna lie here. I was not super convinced by them. Still not super convinced as of episode 2. They're not horrifically bad either. I'm not gonna exaggerate here, but I guess, I don't know, more humanoid orcs work better for me than more animalistic ones. Whatever. The Fade looked sufficiently creepy and alien, so I'll give a point for that. But the Trollocs, not a fan so far. And the magic too, I was really underwhelmed by the channeling and the interaction between Moiraine and Lan. I guess based on the trailer, I thought it would look better than it did in the actual episode. I was just not that taken in by it ultimately. It felt, again, a bit rough around the edges. The way the magic was wielded felt just a bit off and wonky to me. Again, that can be fixed in future episodes, in future seasons, so I'm not going to be too harsh about that. A TV show is allowed to have growing pains, so not a deal breaker in and of itself. But I guess given the budget Amazon can shove into a TV show, I was expecting just something a little bit better. I was a bit miffed in the very first episode that there is no intro montage. But I had an inkling of, oh, maybe that's because it's the very first episode, maybe they'll introduce it in the second one. I was right. And it was good. Not my favorite thing either. I like the imagery, the weaving imagery was really nice and there was a good flow to it. It was quite beautiful. And weaving those female figures, and I know it's linked to the weaves of magic, I think. However, showing the actual looms felt a bit too CGI-y. I mean, too obviously CGI generated, so that was less good. And the music, the very opening notes, felt a bit jarring. I guess it was alright. Not my favorite, but it kind of worked. However, I felt it cut off a bit too abruptly. So not Game of Thrones level of intro montage, but not bad either. So speaking of the OST, so far it's not specifically my thing. I don't think it's bad. It definitely stands out from something like Lord of the Rings, or something like Game of Thrones, or something like Foundation of Dune. I mean, those are science fiction, so that's just another kettle of fish entirely. It's its own thing, but I'm not super convinced by it yet, or it's just not immediately my kind of music, except for a couple of tunes here and there. I need more time to really have a more specific feel for it. So jumping directly into the character / acting, it's the first couple of episodes. I don't really care that much yet. I have not read the book, so I definitely don't have that initial investment in the characters. Nothing stood out as bad or specifically wonky to me either. I did get a sense of these actors actually really into their roles and taking it seriously, but that's just a feeling. I can't really justify it more specifically than that. Standout to me, obviously, was Rosamund Pike as Moiraine. She definitely has that presence on screen, incarnating a female wizard mentor figure, and her relationship with her warder, Lan. I like those two together. I like the way Well, I didn't really like, it's not that I didn't think the way they fought together flowed that smoothly on the screen, but the rest of their interactions, I like them together. There's a good dynamic between them. In fact, there is a scene where they take a bath together, and at first I wasn't sure, are they gonna have sex? Are they sexually intimate? They're not, but there is a nice, very obvious intimacy between them. It's just a non-sexual kind of intimacy, but there was a neat little bit of just back and forth between them that you could feel on the screen, so I like that. But that's probably also a function of just those characters being older and more mature and being portrayed by older actors as well. So that I liked, and I already care. I don't know that I cared, but I'm interested in the character of Moiraine, but it's also the kind of character I would just be interested in. Really, the country folk characters, I'm kind of waiting to see what I make of them, honestly. I don't really care specifically about any one of them yet. The whole Rand Egwene thing is fine. I guess you can kind of feel that they've known each other for a very long time, since they were children, so there's a thing between them and they're intimately involved with one another, but I don't really give a crap yet. It's just generic romance stuff to me, so okay, can't really say much more than that. I'm really all about Moiraine and Lan for now. We'll see how that develops into the future and with the other characters. Oh, well, I could add that Nynaeve seemed more interesting to me than the younger crew, the Fellowship. I'm sorry, I had to make that joke. And I like the plot twist. Well, I mean, it's not really that big of a plot twist, but that little twist at the end of episode 2 kind of elevated it for me. I was like, okay, I could have seen it coming, but okay, nice. Quick note on the few elements of world building I picked up on. There is definitely that imagery / symbolism of the Wheel and of Time, and the Wheel of Time introduced early on, which, duh, that makes sense. You have to do that because it's the bloody series title, right? But again, overall, that first episode just felt rushed. You hear these words, you don't really get an explanation for much of what is happening, and it's just go, 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 but you have this transition. Well, I didn't necessarily mind the transition from peacefulness to violence itself, but you just have this knockoff Shire scene with the country folk, and then the wizard. Okay, I have to point out the obvious, and I knew this going in, but it's very knockoff Lord of the Rings. Or, I mean, that sounds way meaner than I meant it, but it's clearly derivative of Lord of the Rings. And I knew this going in. I know that it's purposely done that way in the beginning, but honestly, the way they executed that in the first episode, it really suffered from the comparison a lot of people undoubtedly make, or I mean, people who haven't read The Wheel of Time, they're gonna make that comparison. That first episode, I think, does a crap job of reeling viewers in who aren't book fans. Now, you do have this world-building element introduced early on of, you have a society that isn't inherently patriarchal, misogynistic. You have the women's circle in the Two Rivers village and the wisdom, and you have this initiation ritual for girls going into womanhood. So that was kind of a neat bit of anthropological world building. And you get a bit about the White Tower and the Aes Sedai and the breaking of the world and this gendered magic. Again, nothing that was actually new to me. I had read about that. Now, so far, it's fine. I'm just not necessarily worried. I'm very curious how that's going to be developed and or exploited throughout the show. Because from what I've read, once again, I think The Wheel of Time suffers somewhat from a type of full feminism, or I mean fake progressivism, or as a friend of mine put it, a boomer's understanding of progressive ideas, which, okay, good effort, but that is actually one of the reasons I don't want to bother reading that series, because that will probably annoy the crap out of me. Is that a superficial reason for not reading a series? Maybe, but that is my decision. So that could be a problem, but I have the feeling that they might overcorrect in the TV show because of very superficial identity politics, because of fake feminism to do with bullshit empowerment, overpowering female characters, and badassery, as there was in Game of Thrones, I might add. So I'm just kind of here with my bucket of metaphorical popcorn, waiting to see what exactly is going to happen with that. But generally speaking, it was just the pacing of that first episode, the delivery of basic world-building concepts, introducing the characters, just getting that plot going. It was just not very well done. There were scenes that felt awkward and wonky, like the scene where Moiraine and Lan enter that inn in the Two Rivers village felt off. I don't know, it was weird. I can't even qualify it. Now, I didn't mind so much the transition from, oh, we're having this peaceful little celebration of the spirits of the dead, and then wham, Trolloc invasion and everyone starts dying. It's just this brutal transition from peaceful happiness to outright chaos and violence. Not necessarily opposed to that. That was actually refreshing in its way. That cold open was just not good. Then you're in that Two Rivers village, just focused on these country folk, fine, and then you have this outpouring of violence and mayhem, and then everyone leaves without much of a debate. All of it just felt either generic, and I've seen this shit before, either in book form or movie TV form, and just rushed, wonky, awkward, not smooth at all. I was shocked by how not good that first episode was. For an opening to a major fantasy adaptation, I was not expecting that. If I'd only stuck with that first episode, I would have just dropped it there and then. But I was like, okay, let's not stick to very first impressions, let's give the second one a chance. It's a good thing I did, because the second one was quite significantly better and more interesting. But that first one, wow! If you want to reel in non-book fans and maybe not super hardcore SFF nerds in, that's not how you do it. However, I did watch the second episode. The second episode introduced some darker, horror-y elements. The breaking of the Fellowship. I'm sorry, I have to put it that way, it's just too funny to me. The breaking of the Fellowship, which obviously makes it more interesting because the stakes are raised and, oh, where are the characters going to go? Are they going to meet up again? Of course they're probably going to meet up again, because, come on, I can guess this stuff by now. And that tiny little twist at the ending, and you're introduced to another faction, so the world is expanding just a bit. You're getting in more world building layered in, and more of Lan and Moraine, so the story is actually rolling now. So I was more invested, and I will care to watch the rest of that first season, report back to you at the end of it. So that concludes my first impressions for the first two episodes of Amazon's TV adaptation of The Wheel of Time. A rocky start, to say the least, but it looks like things might get progressively more interesting and engaging, so I will stick with it. In the meantime, however, I hope you all have a lovely day, evening, or whichever time of day you prefer. Do take good care of yourselves, and I shall see you all reasonably soon in another video. Bye!